I'm Kendra Cook.
And I'm Autumn Jackson.
And this is
Bumper to Bumper.
So, first of all, thanks everybody for continuing to tune in to these. Here we're at number 6 now, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's episode 6.
Wow, I know.
Woo! So thank you all for indulging us and listening to us share some stories about different things here. We appreciate it. This month, we're going to talk about something that I think is pretty cool, but maybe something you don't really think about that much, and that is Pennsylvania license plates. So Pennsylvania, of course, as we know, has so much automotive history in it. We all know that. But what you might not have known is that Pennsylvania was also really at the forefront of license plate manufacturing. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know, trust us to come up with all these topics. So we'll be going on this show forever. I think at this rate. So, Autumn, what can you tell us about the early days of license plates?
So this is really neat, and I think Kendra's right. You know, it's one of those things you kind of take for granted. You don't really think about your license plate. I mean, you get it when you buy your car, and you really don't ever think about it again. But first, I want to start off by saying that in the beginning of license plates, or what they referred to in the early days as tags, which people still do, they were not generally accepted at all. And frankly, people hated them. Okay, so
as with anything new,
especially at that time, right? So drivers felt like tagging or numbering their vehicle would make it appear cheap, and actually they thought it would make their vehicle look like, quote, like a common taxi. Because we don't want to look like those darn taxis that have people all the time. Yeah. So
Slumming it.
Yeah, exactly. So they hated them, and they really were against them. But here's the thing. In the early 1900s, and I know this sounds silly, but people knew who was driving past you. If Kendra and I lived in the same neighborhood and she drove by, I would know it was her because, well, number one, because she'd be waving like crazy out the window. But number two, because honestly, not that many people owned vehicles. And we're talking in the very early 1900s here. So I would know it was her based on her vehicle and that she was even driving a vehicle. So really, for the people that owned vehicles, it was part of their identity. And it did show some class, of course, as well. We know in the beginning, you know, the more money you had, you were more likely to own a vehicle. But the problem was that really, honestly, people just weren't that good at driving. There were
still aren't.
Okay. Yes, Kendra can attest to that on 422 on her way in the morning, I'm sure. So there were countless accidents, and the motoring elite, which is what they were really, they quickly developed a reputation nationwide for recklessness and disregard for the safety of others. So they were just driving around recklessly, and I think it was the last episode we talked about how, you know, if you watch those old time videos of people driving, how just nuts it is.
Yeah.
And it was really like that, and it was super dangerous. If you were in a car, it was dangerous. If you were on a horse, if you were walking. So they really just, there was a recklessness involved here, and newspapers in the first decade of the 20th century, they were filled with reports of injuries and deaths caused by speeding drivers. So at this time, there wasn't a speed limit in most cities. So you were just going willy-nilly, okay, however you wanted to go. And you'd probably drive fast as opposed to slow. So horses were spooked, riders were thrown off their horses, and pedestrians were literally run down in the streets by people. So, and the drivers usually got away with it. That's the thing here.
Yeah.
You didn't know who was driving, and you know what, at that time, not saying it's not like that today, really, you would just keep driving. You hit somebody, you hit a horse, oh well, and you're just driving along. So that's really sad. People were killed, and non-drivers called these dangerous drivers automobilists. And that was an insulting word for these people because, again, they were kind of hated. I think there was of course, there was some resentment there that was brewing as well. So, of course. So the press frequently called vehicles devil wagons, which I just love so much. Those darn devil wagons coming down the street, darn technology. So Soon, cities and states did begin to develop tags for their vehicles, and they began to tag the vehicles.
Yeah. So it's essentially a way, like we still do today, to identify a reckless
honestly
driver.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now today, of course, we know license plates are metal.
Yeah.
But they weren't always that way. We have some older plates on display in the museum.
Yep.
We have a lot of porcelain ones from the early days. So is that how they started, as porcelain?
So actually, they started very crudely. They were crudely made. Actually, in the very beginning, they would just be, sometimes the numbers would be written on the car, which that would make me mad, I suppose, if I was one of these automobilists and someone came up and wrote like 33 on my car with a Sharpie.
Spent all that money on that car.
And there it
the
goes.
Grease marker out.
Exactly. And it probably was.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, they would mark the vehicles literally on the vehicle themselves. And after that, typically the owners would make something for the car, because again, regulations were pretty loose. So they would make them out of metal, wood, and even leather. And department stores even picked up on this, and they started offering house numbers for this purpose. It's like, okay, nail this, these 2 house numbers onto your vehicle, because that's a good idea. But people were doing anything that they could to mark the vehicle, because it really was starting to make people mad and they needed to do something about it.
Yeah.
Technically, the first state to issue an actual license plate, what we know today as a license plate, would be Massachusetts, and that one was made of porcelain.
Okay.
And that was in 1903. So these plates were attractive generally, and they were actually meant to last 5 years, which is kind of neat. I know some states even today with the registration and stuff like that, and what am I thinking of?
The little sticker you
get?
Yeah,
when you get your car
inspected.
Thank you. An inspection. Even those in some states last longer. So that was their initial plan for this, was to make it last 3 and 5 years.
Okay.
So that was in the beginning. And some of you may be wondering, why porcelain? Like, wouldn't that be expensive and just uncommon? Like, what the heck is porcelain? In fact, porcelain manufacturing had been around since the middle of the previous century, and it was commonly used to make signs and kitchenware items.
Oh, okay.
So people were familiar with porcelain, and it had been perfected at this point, and it actually required no skilled labor. It was pretty easy to make.
Okay.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you guys real quick.
Ooh, yeah.
This is a 1906, but I'm going to show you the progression here. This is a Pennsylvania license plate from 1906. First of all, it's heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, feel that thing. So it's heavy.
It's not even big. Look
It's
how short this
exactly.
number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because at this time, so they also made it to fit the number. So like that one didn't need to be any bigger.
Okay.
It was only 3
There you
numbers. Yeah. So this is a 6. But I wanted to show you guys again the progression here. I'll show you in a couple minutes the other 2 that I have out. So really around that time, around 1903, the porcelain plates, the era of them had begun. Okay. Philadelphia, now here we're coming back to Pennsylvania and why we're so special.
Yeah.
Because we are.
We are, darn it.
Darn it, we are. So Pennsylvania, well, Philly, okay, so at this time too, cities could do their own thing. So Philadelphia was the first city in the first state to do this, to issue a dated porcelain plate. It is the earliest dated porcelain plate ever made. That was in 1903 in Philadelphia. Yes. So Philadelphia continued issuing porcelain plates through 1906. And again, we have a 1906 one here. We'll go back in a couple minutes. I'll tell you guys about who manufactured that. But this is one of those. So at this point, Pennsylvania took over with their own porcelain issues. So Philadelphia started it in 1903, and then Pennsylvania picked up on it in 1906. So we're going to put the 1906 one down here. Now, by 1905, every state in New England began issuing porcelain plates. So by 1905, everyone kind of on our area of the United States here was doing porcelain.
Okay.
In 1906, West Virginia was a rarity at this point, actually, and I think because of budgetary reasons, they actually were the first state to do a stamped metal plate.
Okay. So kind of like what we're more used to.
Yes. Which that developed down the line, but that was odd in 1906 because everyone was doing porcelain.
Yeah.
But they did a stamped metal plate. Between 1910 and 1915, porcelains really took off. It was their heyday, and during this time, Canada began to issue porcelain plates as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
We beat them.
Yeah, we did.
Something.
So there.
So, I mean, we talk about, they have the numbers and stuff. Obviously, like, we see today, like, funny or the quirky ones, the vanity plates. Was that allowed in a porcelain plate?
Yes. So, yes. So, actually, well, it wasn't porcelain. It wasn't on porcelain. It would be on the metal, the stamped metal. And Pennsylvania, again, was the first. And we were the first to issue customized license plates. And they were actually only limited to a driver's initials.
Oh.
So it would only be
right.
KC or AJ that you could put on there. Let's not get too crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're only allowed your initials.
Woo!
Okay. So that was, I think, around the 30s that people were allowed to do that. And then vanity plates were developed in 1965.
Wow.
So, which is actually kind of late, but kind of. But it's kind of neat. Interesting fact. So in 2007, it's estimated that 9.7 million Americans and Canadian residents had vanity plates.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Plus, you have to pay extra for that. Who wants to do that?
Not me.
Although I do lose my car in the parking lot
Yeah.
every once in a while.
So you need to drive a bright orange one like I do.
Yeah, exactly. It has some perks to it, I'm sure.
Now, okay, so sorry, I got off track there, but we were talking about Pennsylvania and the porcelain that was made here. So, was there like one company kind of dominating this scene, or did everyone just do what Philly was doing, or what was?
So actually, Pennsylvania did kind of dominate the scene. Quite frankly, we had the second and third companies that were second and third in production of porcelain plates, which is really, really neat. Real quick, I'm going to show you guys before I talk about this. This is intertwined here. This is a 1915 plate, even heavier than the last one. And this one is for a dealer, I think, because of this here, which says non-transferable, and this little star. Typically, the star was representing either a dealer or some sort of odd car or vehicle to it. Wouldn't necessarily be a passenger plate. So we have this 1915 plate here. So again, I just wanted to show you the differences. I mean, they're getting bigger. Of course, there's more numbers. Still heavy as heck. But it was manufactured by a company called Brilliant. You can see that on the back here. So first I'll talk about another company, and their name was Ingram Richardson, and they were the Ingram Richardson Manufacturing Company. They were located in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
All right.
So out west. And the company was founded by two British guys. And they were known to have produced dozens of plates for like 9 different states, mainly in the New England area. But that was pretty decent. That was a lot of contracts. And actually, they did California's first 2 plates as well.
There's a big one.
Which is a big one, yeah. So that was really good, and they were well known. They were the only U.S. manufacturer to provide any of the Canadian porcelains.
Oh.
So they exclusively did Canadian porcelains, which was a big deal too.
Yeah.
So the earliest plates that this company is known to manufacture were in around 1906. Ingrid Richardson is not known to have produced plates after 1916, but they really took off. The company blossomed after this point because they were so well known for the quality of their license plates.
Name recognition.
Yeah, again, marketing. They did a good job. So they went on to do other things like housewares, things like that, and they were popular. So again, they were the second in U.S. production of these porcelains. The third in production was Brilliant Manufacturing Company. Yes. And I just think it's so neat. Okay, so these were hanging in the museum, I just want to say. Dan, our maintenance guy, pulled these down for us. So I think I have one that's even flipped over there so you guys can see the back when you come in. But it's so neat that they stamped that on there and that we have them built by this Pennsylvania company. So they were located on Ridge Avenue there in Philadelphia. And they were really kind of significantly late getting into the porcelain game. They only received their first contract in October of 1911. And that was when they placed a winning bet to have the right to produce Pennsylvania's 1912 plates. So they started in 1911, and they did such an acceptable job with these plates that the company managed to retain its contract with the state of Pennsylvania in 1913 and in 1914, which was neat because that's when Pennsylvania introduced commercial, motorcycle, trailer, and tractor porcelains to be used. So again, my guess would be this plate is one of those other things. Perhaps a tractor or a trailer or something along those lines. So in that year alone, which we're talking 1914, Brilliant produced over 220,000 porcelains.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So they were really big.
That's a lot.
And they really did a lot around.
Yeah.
So Brilliant Manufacturing was in business from 1910 to like 1930, I believe. And they manufactured porcelain plates for Pennsylvania and New Jersey from 1911 into the late 20s, which is, by the way, generally when porcelains were on the way out.
Okay.
By 1930, they really honestly were on the way out, and no one was really doing porcelain plates anymore, and that's why I wanted to show you here. So this is a 1934 plate. This is an official plate, so it could have been for perhaps someone that worked for the state or whatever. This is light. I mean, this is like a plate we know today, but just comparing the two,
yeah,
it's pretty nuts.
World's different.
Yeah, world different, smaller, and honestly, they're cheaper to be made by this point, and so it's really just a given. So, 1934. This is what we're looking at here. So it's quite different than the previous ones.
Yeah. And if you go over to the museum and look at the wall of license plates.
Yeah.
Like now these two, all the porcelains you'll see they change color every year.
Yes.
And they have the date too, but they have some neat colors like bright yellow and like that red that almost make it look like a marbly effect they do to it. Or I don't know, wood grain. I don't know what they were trying to achieve, but it's got like a wave in it. So yeah, and they changed every year,
which is neat. And again, it kind of goes back to things were so different then, and people there was just more uniqueness in certain pieces.
Yes. Yeah.
And so like Kendra said, we have a whole wall, well, literally 2 walls, full of plates. They're numbered, like they're in time order, and you can really see we have like boat.
Yeah, there's a couple specialty ones over there. There's some motorcycle ones. There's one for like a vendor.
Yes.
Like I don't know what you want to call it, like a huckster kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you snip off whatever the vehicle is, and so
it's neat.
There's a couple different ones.
It's in the back of the museum towards the carriage factory, so I really recommend you guys come in and check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. Yeah, it's funny, and again, something that we don't really think too much about. We shouldn't be surprised. Has strong history right here in Pennsylvania.
Like everything else, okay?
Exactly.
Yes.
We're number one, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
Super cool. So thank you for sharing with everybody about
Pennsylvania
porcelains. Very cool.
Really neat.
And that's a wrap for us today. But next month, check back with us. We're going to talk about Model T, and I think more specifically even the assembly line.
I'm excited about that.
That was a pretty important development, and something we talk about a little bit in museum, so we're going to talk about it a little more right here.
Yay!
Next month. So join us then. Remember, we are uploading these videos to our YouTube channel the third Friday.
Third
the
Friday.
third Friday of every month. And we look forward to exploring more topics with you. If you missed a past episode, you can go on YouTube and look it up. And we have another show on YouTube as well to check out up on Blocks. And we're going to be adding some more shows and content to our YouTube channel, different topics. And that'll be coming, I don't know, I'm going to say probably in the early 2021. So
Awesome.
We're working on that.
Yay!
It's exciting.
We're trucking along.
That's right. So please tune in and let us know how you like this episode. Send us some feedback. You can contact us through Facebook. That's probably the quickest way to get either one of us. So keep liking our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and we will see you all next month.
Thanks, guys. Bye.